This is Fundamentals Test 2. Some of this stuff seems like we're just oiling the machinery, but we go through it anyway because these tests are a fourth of your grade, guys, so take them seriously, okay? And, you know, so occasionally I'll have you doing an open book. Sometimes I'll go in here and we'll talk about it. But we need to kind of keep this going. Professionalism includes which factor? All of the above. Take responsibility, don't blame other people, become a teammate with your coworkers, keep your word. If the truth is your ally, if you always tell the truth and there's some sign of a dispute that arises and it's your word against somebody else's, your word will be worth more if it's always been truthful. If they ever hear you tell them one lie, then whatever you say won't mean anything from then on. That's just all there is to it. And I've seen stuff like that in the workplace. You know, even if a guy wasn't guilty, you know, he wound up getting blamed because he lied before. See, well, so it's better off, even if you screw up, to say, look, hey, I screwed up. That's personal responsibility, you know what I mean? And when I was working at Sabine Offshore, I had this pipe loader, and I was pulling a forklift out of the bog, you know, and I didn't have the forks tilted up enough, the ground was kind of going up. And that pipe loader was a bear. I mean, you couldn't roll one of the wheels through that door if you had it off the thing. And the fork went into the ground and hit a water line and busted it. Looked like a fountain out there. So I went running in there to tell the maintenance supervisor. I said, hey, I messed up and busted that line when I was pulling the forklift out. And he said, well, that's refreshing. Usually people don't say I messed up. They come in and they say it wasn't my fault. And when around here, when somebody drops something and break it, they don't say I dropped it. They say it hit the floor. All right, that's personal responsibility. What types of communication include what? What's a nonverbal type of communication?
Body language.
Yeah, sort of body language, but yeah, and some of the nonverbal communication is sort of irritating. You know, there's one guy that I worked with used to get really irritated if somebody did the head toss. Hey, come here. He didn't like that, you know. So everybody, you got to be paying attention when somebody was doing that. Technician A says a customer pay rate sometimes higher than a factory flat rate. Technician B says the factory flat rate times are usually longer compared to aftermarket flat rate times. That's A, basically. Customer pay rate as far as what a job pays. Like if they'll say, if you got you're going to put a water pump on such and such a vehicle. If you look it up, it's going to say the warranty rate is 1.5 hours. The customer pay rate is 2.2. See, the warranty people have you by the throat, so they'll just pay you whatever they feel like they want to. You know, of course, you can still beat that if you're fast. And in this business, you're going to earn the money you get paid. You know what I mean? If you got the idea you're going to walk around the shop all day and drinking coffee and standing by the water cooler and get a big check at the end of the week, that ain't the way that's going to work. And if you're getting paid on the clock, you need to always be moving. If they ever see, if you're a commission mechanic, you need to always be moving because you're kind of working for yourself, right? If you're on commission, that means that you get paid. How would you like to get paid 80 hours for a 40-hour week? Would you like that? Huh? You wouldn't like to get paid 80 hours for working 40?
80.
Yeah, get paid 80 to work 40. Yeah, you're working 40, you're getting paid 80. You can make that happen. If you're working in a busy shop, the faster you work, the more you get paid. See what I'm saying? And routinely, in a busy shop, there's guys that make, you know, they get paid 60, 70, 80 hours, and they're only been there 40, 45 hours because they're fast and they're focused and they stay working. And when they go to the parts room, they walk like they're late for an appointment, you know. And I used to tell these people that, and Jimmy, the guy that works at the Ford place, he said, I watch these guys. He says, and some of the guys, and he told me this 2 or 3 years ago, but he said some of these guys will stand around and not get very motivated all day long, and then they're crying at the end of the week because they didn't turn any hours. You know, somebody that's working is going to get paid. You'll earn what you get paid in this business. Technician A says, well, never mind, housekeeping duties of a technician include keeping items off the floor whenever possible. That's including, listen, that's including not leaving your air hose pulled down from the overhead reel and just all over the place where people can trip over it. And drop lights and stuff, when you're done with the air hose for now, just pull the cord and let it roll itself back up and get it out of the way, you know, because part of the reason you have it up there is so people won't fall over it. How many people have fell down in here? You fell down. You fell down. Did you fall down in here yet? Okay, well, make sure you don't. Okay, what about you? You fall down?
Once.
Yeah.
I got tripped.
Yeah, what tripped you?
A creeper.
Creeper tripped you. Somebody left a creeper on the floor?
It fell and
yeah.
got caught up in my legs.
Oh, it fell. It stumbled. It fell when you walked. Oh, well, nobody left it on the floor. Don't leave the creeper on the floor because somebody step on that thing, cut a flip. You know, I mean, you break a back like that, so don't leave a creeper. I mean, if you need to have a sort of non-obstructed work area if you possibly can. If you're taking a bunch of parts off of a vehicle and you know it's going to be down for a while, open the trunk of the car, put some papers and cloth in there so you don't mess up the trunk, and place the parts in the trunk. That's pretty smooth. Which of these tactics is involved with skillful listening techniques? Yeah, both A and B. Listen, you make eye contact with the speaker, and you're going to listen with an open mind. So if this is, what is an open mind? So somebody comes over here. This guy had he had to pull a transmission out of his Bronco. I mean, out of his S10 Blazer to fix an oil leak or something. I can't remember what it was. We pulled the transmission out. We put it back in. And this guy named Ray that was here did it. And he, you know, pretty hard worker and all that kind of stuff. So he pops it all back in there and everything's fine. You know, we drive it and it seems okay. So the guy comes back and he says, my rear hatch, my electric hatch release won't work. And it wasn't like that before y'all worked on it. Initially, what are you thinking?
You're full of crap.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're thinking. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking, well, that's not anything we did, just get out of here with your bad self. You know, this kind of stuff. We're not going to play that game. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Listen with an open mind. Let's just see. Let's just have a look at it and see what it is. One way or another, we need to see what it is. Besides that, we're studying some electrical stuff this time anyway. Let's just go ahead and see what's going on. So we found out that it was something we did. And the reason that we found out about it, if you don't plug and he plugged the transmission, the neutral safety switch in good enough where everything else will work, but it wasn't quite good enough to deliver a ground to that actuator. So if you don't have your S10 in park or neutral, that hatch won't open. Think about this. You got it in drive, you're driving down the road, you actually bump the hatch opens up, you've lost your dog, your kid, your ice chest. You're not going to, you know, see what I'm saying? So they've got it designed so that unless it's in park or neutral, you know, so open mind means let's just have a look at it and see what it is. Instead of making the guy mad, you know what I'm saying? Anybody can make somebody mad. And let me tell you something else. You might get to where you're really, really good at doing this. You might be able to fix this, everything that somebody throws at you. But whenever you start to get a little puffed up, you know, that's whenever you're going to get embarrassed. It doesn't give you the right to be a jerk just because you know more than somebody else knows about certain things. You see what I'm saying? You're a whole lot better. You can catch a lot more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. That's the whole thing there. So always, you know, treat other people with respect. We found out if you got egg on your face, what happens is if you say, no, that wasn't us, and he takes it somewhere else and find out it was you, now you look like a fool. See, that's it, because you should have looked at it. That's the thing. When speaking with a customer, technician A uses profanity only if the customer uses foul language first. Well, that's not good. Technician B says it's okay to use profane language with younger customers because they can relate better. You don't ever use profane language. There's no point in that. As a matter of fact, here at this college, it's against college policy. Did you know that? It's in the handbook. Profanity is not permitted in our classrooms or in our labs and all that. But I will tell you something else too. I've actually been talking to customers, like they bring a customer out there to talk to me. They brought a guy out there one day. You know, you don't have to put up with it out of customers either. They brought a customer out there one day, and I never had seen the guy, never had worked on his truck, nothing like that. Didn't know he didn't know me, and I didn't know him. Service writer brought him out there, but he was a sort of a hothead, you know, and he was a sort of a jerk. So the customer brings him out there, and he says, my truck is transferring gas from the front tank to the back tank. Well, you know, I'm not going to categorically say I know exactly what it is, but really there's only one thing it could be. And I says, well, typically when we see that on a truck like yours, it means that that's the valve that switches the tanks is actually leaking internally, and it actually transfers the fuel because the pressure's on it and all kinds of stuff. And so what I would usually do is I would put one of those on there and then verify the repair. Well, in his mind, that sounded like I was talking about just throwing parts at it and trying something. You know what I mean? And he says, well, I'm not going to have you part swapping on my truck, you SOB. And so I told the service writer, I didn't even look at this guy anymore. I told the service writer, I'm through talking to this guy. I said, you need to take him back up to the write-up area and get him out of my service bay. And so you don't have to put up with that, you know, being that kind of abuse from anybody, you know. All right, so how many ASE tests must be passed to become a master automotive technician? 8. Yeah, but you cannot take you can't take this one unless you've passed all of those. Right? Now, I've got 10 certifications because I also took light vehicle diesel. And it's kind of like by itself, you know, I mean, but the other ones that you take, the other 8 are the ones that lead you to that. I had that one student that completed all 8 of his while he was still enrolled here. If you hit these books, you'll be ready for the ASE test by the time you're done. I mean, you could, you know, if you're serious about your studies and you pay attention to these textbooks, you can go through here and you can go through those ASE tests. Because you've been in school, because you've been saturated with this stuff, you're typically going to do a lot better on an ASE test if you go on and get it done. All right, see, how many years of experience required to receive ASE certification? That means having the patch on yours. You got to have 2 years. This program, if you complete this program, it counts for 1 year in the field. Another year in the field, if you've got your test passed, you're wearing the patch. You got me? Now, I'll tell you something else. If you go to get a job and you got the ASE certification, they're going to look at you a lot more seriously than they do if you just walk in there with a toolbox. Unless they happen to know that you've worked somewhere else, you did good work. You got me? So ASE certification is your credentials. You know the doctor hangs his thing on the wall? You ever been to a dentist or a doctor's office and he's got his stuff hanging on the wall up there? It's good to have your stuff on the wall, ain't it? Or your stuff on your sleeve, or your stuff in your pocket. You know, like you can pull out pull out your little ASE thing here. I don't even know if I've got mine with me. But when I actually got my my NATEF certification done in here, the guy, when he left, he went, do you remember when he was here last summer? All right, he came and says, I need you to make a copy of that and send it to me. And this, if I can pick it up while I'm not on the floor, is what it looks like. See that? That's a card. On the back it tells me, it tells when they expire. See that? You got one of those, you got one of these. It's really important to have that. And if you've got this that you can throw on the table, you know, you can have a patch on your shirt, you know, but if you got that you can throw on the table, that's something you can't buy, you know, you got to actually earn it. Okay, credit for how many years work experience may be substituted by attending automotive service training. That's 1 year. If it's a NATEF certified program, and this one is, technicians should do all the following to prepare for ASE except what?
Try to keep a reward schedule life?
No, eat a big meal. You don't eat a big meal. Don't eat a big meal, because if you eat a big meal, you're going to wind up just being all groggy headed and everything. How can a technician register to take the ASE test?
By any of those ones, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually any of them, phone, ASE website, by mail. I will tell you something else too. The ASE testing is actually done at Prometrics over in Dothan now. And what you do is you got to actually go on the ASE website. You've got to select the test center that you're going to go to, which is the one in Dothan for this area. And you got to, it's kind of like, how many of you guys ever bought an airline ticket? You got to find out if there's a seat, right? This is the same way. You got to find out there's a seat available. And you got to put a time in there. You know, there's a seat available from 10 to 11 on July 22nd, whatever that year was. All right, whenever you do that and you put your credit card information in there, you've paid for the test and all that, you go over there, you walk in there, and there's a guy in there, and there's a sort of a place where he makes you hold your arms up and you think you're going through airport security. He makes you empty your pockets and put them in a locker that you have the key to. Put your stuff, your wallet, your thing, if you got a purse with you, whatever you got, put it in your locker. Fanny pack, I don't care. Put everything, cell phone, everything you got. And then he puts a wand all over you. And you know, your pocket's got to be totally empty. And then he lets you go in there and you got all these computer stations in there. And the only thing you're allowed to have is a blank piece of paper and a pencil. And he brings it up on the computer, and then you take the test. When you get through, when you walk out of that classroom, when you walk out of that test center, you know whether you passed or failed that test. It's pretty slick the way they do it now. Used to, it was paper and pencil. You had to go to another college over where they give the test. And whenever you got through, you had to wait 6 weeks and all that. But now, you instantly know. It's really a lot better than it was. All right, according to technicians to take the exam, which question type is the most difficult?
A?
Huh?
Is it A?
Not really.
D.
B, the technician A and B. You know why? Because each one of those is a true-false question. Technician A and B is like 2 true-false questions. You got to determine if one of them's true, both of them's true, one of them's false, both of them's false. See what I'm saying? That's basically just think of them as 2 true. Break them down. When you see a technician A and B question, read technician A first, get him out of the way, read technician B. Technician A says you only have to pay for a test one time. If you fail it, you can take it again for free. Is he right?
No.
Technician B says a photo ID is needed to enter the test center. And that's another thing I forgot to mention. He's going to want to see your ID. He's going to make sure that you're who you say you are. All right. That's B. Technicians, two technicians are discussing the safe use of a wrench. Technician A says a wrench should be pulled towards you. Technician B says a wrench should be pushed away. Now, they should put a caveat here. Basically, everybody that's ever picked up a wrench and worked on a car, whether you're in this room or whatever, knows that there are times when you cannot pull on a wrench. Because there's no way. It's physically impossible to pull because the darn thing, you can't get it on there but one way. And you got to turn it, the bolt will only loosen up turning one way. You know what I mean? And the people that make tools, you know, like the Snap-on people, they don't even want you to use a ratchet to break the bolt loose, or they didn't used to. They want you to use a little break-over bar, break it loose, and put your ratchet on there. You know, we're trying to make some money here. So basically, the long and the short of it is when you have a choice, it's better to pull than it is to push. I would say when you have a choice, if you push and it breaks loose all at once, you'll bark your knuckle or you'll do something. I actually was working on a forklift one night in there, years ago when I worked on forklifts, I mean back in the 80s. And I had a big old wrench about this long. I was trying to break a hydraulic line loose, and I was, pushing it on my hand because I had to turn it that direction. There's no way I could pull it because, I couldn't get in any other way. And inch and a half is what size it was. And I put my leg against it, my foot against it to push it, and it broke loose so suddenly that I hyperextended my knee, and that sucker bothered me for 2 months. But I mean, I didn't do anything except I was just innocent thing, and you wouldn't think it was a safety issue, because the forklift was properly blocked up and it wasn't going to fall on me or nothing, but I was reaching under the counterweight with my foot. When I pushed on that thing, it broke loose a lot quicker than I thought, or like more suddenly, and my leg snapped out straight. And if you ain't ever felt that, that hurts like a son of a gun, All right, so, but anyway, that was, also, if you're working in a shop, safety related stuff, it's best, you got to be really, really, really careful if you're working by yourself, particularly if you have it jacked up and you're working under it. Because if you do something wrong and that thing comes down on you and there ain't nobody to get you out from under there, you know what I mean? You're going to be really miserable for a long time before you finally expire. This kind of thing has happened before, so be really careful about that. I mean, but double and triple check every doggone thing. When I'm talking about if you're on the ground, on a creeper, up under something that's jacked up, don't ever get under a car without jack stands under it. Don't ever do it. Okay, you got me? All right, let's see. Exhaust hoses should be used because one of the exhaust gaskets can be, what?
Willie's got a contradiction on here. He thinks it's supposed to be pushed, it's supposed to be pulled, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to pull it. If you push it, you're liable, you got your whole body weight behind it and all that. Pulling it is better. Now, if you're, huh? Yeah, okay. All right, so exhaust hoses should be used because one of the exhaust gases can be deadly in high concentrations, and which one is that?
Carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. Hydrocarbons is no cakewalk. And I've actually been in a situation where I had to replace the fuel pump on a motorhome, and you couldn't pull the gas tank off for whatever reason. To begin with, the gas tank's got 80 gallons of gas in it, but we didn't have nothing that would hold 80 gallons of gas. And I could reach the fuel pump, but let me ask you this. This is a closed area in there. I'm reaching in there and I'm taking all these this has actually got 6, 8mm head screws on it. When you take them loose, what's the problem now? That whole area fills up with hydrocarbons. Heavy gas smell. You don't have to breathe very much of that before you're just totally out of it. Matter of fact, I saw one guy, it was under a car working, and there was, he was fooling with a gas tank, and there was so many gas fumes under there, he just stopped moving. And somebody noticed that and said, "Mark," and he didn't answer him. "Mark." So they grabbed him by the feet and pulled the creeper out from under there, and he's just sort of like, So what I did is I found me a squirrel cage fan, like the ones you buy at Lowe's. And before I ever started that, because that was what triggered me. This is not good to be breathing this stuff. So it was like a tunnel going through there between the frame. So I put a squirrel cage fan up on there and plugged it in, blowing that way. So I had a good fresh volume of air blowing past me, taking the gas fumes out the other way. And I was able to do the whole job without pulling a gas tank, you see, because on that one I couldn't for whatever reason anyway. Long and short of it is, you got to be smart when you got to think ahead and don't put yourself in a position. Also, How many of you guys are still using a little drop light bulb? You know, drop light that's got the regular old incandescent bulb? You know, just a plain old light bulb. What happens if you ever splash water or something on one? And now I'm talking about on the bulb itself, it breaks. And then you've got a really nice ignition point in there. If you got gasoline dripping on a drop light bulb, that's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? You know, and it will cause an explosion and a fire and all kinds of stuff. So you gotta be really careful about that. All right, so let's see, the process of combustion occurring without an open flame is called what?
Yes.
Huh?
Well, I know spontaneous.
Spontaneous combustion. Hey, what happened down at Diesel? Eddie has got a metal shop rag bin down there, and of course they get their stuff's a lot greasier than what we do up here typically. And he actually had a fire that started that way in his shop rag bin down there one time. And I mean, it was a real hot fire that started in that shop rag bin, and he came to the shop and it was all burned up in there. You know, I mean, because what happens? How many of you, if you guys have ever felt something like go through a chemical heat, like sometimes you'll actually have hay in a barn, like green hay. If you stack green hay in a barn, and you get up in there, even if it happens to be cool weather, you can get up by that heat, by that hay, and it's real hot. And so these rags can actually go through this chemical situation and boof, you know, actually start fire. They can get hot enough to start fire. What's the flash point of paper? In other words, how hot does paper got to get before it bursts into flame?
Not very hot.
451 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, if you put it in the oven, you can put a piece of paper in the oven, and if you turn the oven on and you put it up to 300, 400 degrees, that paper may sit there and smolder a little bit. But when you hit 451, it's going to burst into flame. That's really, you know, that's why they can make, how do you think they make fortune cookies? You know what I'm saying? All right, so, but I mean, that is Fahrenheit 451. Okay, now then, we got, which item is usually not included in a first aid kit? Fire blanket. Proper working level is what?
About waist height.
Basically, if you can work it waist height, you're good. One of the things I don't understand around here, it's funny to me how it happens, the guys that are used to working in their backyard on cars will take a lift, like we got out here. They'll put the car on the lift, and the lift, they'll raise the lift up about 10 inches. You know what I mean? What's up with that, you know?
They usually working low one.
Yeah.
Me, I don't know my bad. It's about chest height.
Yeah.
If I'm changing that.
Chest high works better, yeah. I mean, you need to work at what's comfortable for you that doesn't strain your back. Just be really good about that. Okay, now then, when hammering an aluminum part, it's best to pound with what?
Plastic mallet.
Yeah, if it's an aluminum part, that's why we got them. And a lot of people, listen to it, if you're gonna make something happen, like if you're trying to get a tie rod in to bounce out of its little spindle thing, and you're gonna hit it on the side, you know what I'm talking about? You guys know that, don't you? You're gonna hit that on the side. If you're gonna hit it on the side, don't use that rubber dead blow hammer to do that. You gotta use a good solid steel hammer, and you gotta hit it. And also, I think these people, when I first, and I go teach it, some of them, you can tell they ain't used to using a hammer, and you say, okay, put this on here and hit it with this hammer. And they'll be going tap, tap, tap. Yeah, but what you do is, you wanna beat the crud out of this thing. This person has called me twice. Let me see who this is. Hello.
Technician really uses 3-pound electrical.
Hey, Katrisa. No. Yeah. We do. Cylinder number 5 has got a misfire. We figured it out with our scan tool. And so we're probably, worst case scenario, you'll have to have one of those coils. We had to replace one before up in the front, you know, I think 1 or 2, whichever one that is. So it's probably going to have a coil and a plug. But I don't know how much the coil is. We're going to look at the plug before we price out a coil, but I can't remember. Whatever that coil was last time, maybe $100 or something like that. I don't remember, but or maybe 50. I can't remember. I'm going to have to call and find out about that. But right now I'm in class, so but I'll let you know something. All right, that's that red one that you're working on, Melissa.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, Technician A says uses a 3-prong electrical cord when possible. Oh, what I started to say was, a lot of times whenever you're doing something pretty, you know, working with big heavy stuff that you got to hit it to break it loose, you got to hit it like you want to kill it. You know what I mean? Like you're mad at it or something like that. But if you just go tap, 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 then you're not going to have anything going on that way.
Just get angry at him.
Yeah. When technician A uses a 3-pronged electrical cord when possible, yes. Technician B uses double insulated electrical tools. Who's right about? Both those guys are right. Yeah, double insulated basically means it's a plastic tool. If you've ever been shocked by one when you had somebody has a tool that's not double insulated, like one of the old metal drills or something like I used to make years ago, and you got that thing with that third prong cut off, and you sitting on your knees in wet dirt trying to drill something, it will light you up. And if it's bad enough, you can surely die. You don't want to go there and all that. So that completes that particular test there.